Good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending this workshop. It's Welcome to SCORE, and the workshop name is Simple Steps to Hiring Your First Employee. So some housekeeping rules. Please type your questions in the chat, and all the questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. And today's webinar is being recorded, and it will be emailed to all participants. So let's move on to the next one. So we have some poll questions surveys. So would you please, yes, thank you, Christina. So the questions are, do you plan on hiring more than one person? Question number 2 is, have you been in business 1 year or longer? Question number 3, do you do your own payroll? And question number 4, do you have a business plan? So great, so you already answered. So the question number 1 was 80%. Most of you guys are planning on hiring, which is great news. And your business owner, you've been, more than like half of the business people said that they've been in business more than a year or longer, and the other half have not. Maybe they're starting new one. And do you do your own payroll? So most people, they do their own payroll. And question number 4, most of you also have a business plan. Wow, that's a great news. And thank you so much for participating. Okay. So we have the results, and now let's go and show results. So we have, so you can see that, no. Okay, let's go to the next one. So we have today the presenters, Tim Conboy. He is an expert in human resources. He is with the company as an advisor in security, and he is, they provide total payroll solutions, human resources solutions. And we have Bob Garcia. He's an expert in lending and also in business planning. And myself, my name's Jaspreet, and we own some retail stores. And I'm very excited to share this information with you today. Thank you. So simple steps to hiring your first employee. So if you're attending this workshop, that means that you have a need to hire an employee. So, okay. So you are here because you have a, you have a need to hire employee, or maybe you're getting ready for your future employee. Okay, which is great. Okay? It's always great idea to be prepared. Okay. So we want you to write down a question, any question that you have about human resources or hiring your first employee. So we want to know, how much, you know about hiring new employee, and then what do you expect, from this workshop? So it's a great idea just to find out, what your needs are and what you're expecting from this workshop to help you with. Okay. So today's workshop, you will learn things to consider before you hire, the hiring process, and then ongoing HR responsibilities. So we'll talk more in detail about these categories. Okay. So let's talk about things to consider before you hire. Make sure you're ready and you know your legal obligations, lots of rules and regulations for labor, right? And define the role and pay ranges. Make sure that we know how much we're going to be paying out. So we're going to be talking more about those things also. So let's make sure that we are ready, things to consider before you hire. So can I afford to hire right now? That is the first and foremost, the biggest question, as an employer, and you want to make sure that you have a budget planned for your new employee, because it's not just going to cost your salary and wages. It's more than that, right? It's lots of responsibility, training them and bringing them on board. It's going to cost you, right? So we want to make sure that we know the responsibility that we are ready to handle. So is there enough steady work to support an employee? You have a business that you're running, or maybe you're starting. So maybe right now you don't need to, worry about too much, but future, if you have too much work, maybe you need somebody to help you, right? So do I have the cash flow to support an employee? That's so, again, it's expensive, especially nowadays. to have an employee. So we want to make sure that we know our responsibilities and duties as a business owner. Okay. We have more questions that we ask ourselves, before we hire somebody. Is it like, is my business is down because I don't have time? Am I turning down my customers because, I don't have enough labor or people to take, or manpower, right? Am I missing deadlines because I am so busy? That is a thing that, if we have, too many things on our hand and we're not able to take care, we're not able to provide good customer service, and that can also hinder our business, right? So we want to make sure that we are not in that kind of, in the category that we are missing, and because of, we are really busy with our stuff. Our additional skills are needed to run or grow my business. That's more like, if I'm not a good social media person, then I do need to have somebody who can take care of that area, or I need to learn, right? Or some special things, if I'm not good communicator, if I don't have good management skills. If you have worked in a company as a manager of, human resources department, then maybe you have enough information, but maybe you don't. So those are the things that, who is gonna be there to help me when I need these things. So all these questions we talked about, if you answer yes to those questions, then it is time to hire. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So before you hire, things to consider before you hire. So your legal obligations, the federal employment laws. So we are going to be talking more in details about that. So there are 3 categories of employment laws. So number 1 category is time and pay, discrimination, and safety. Are we paying our employees on time, or are we paying them fair wages or salaries? We never discriminate, and we take care of them, when they are working at our place. So we don't cause them any harm. So we want to make sure that they're safe working at our working place. So this is supposed to be an exercise, when we had these workshops in personal. So we would divide people in 3 groups. Group 1 would talk, about time and pay, how much they know. Group 2 would talk about discrimination. 3 about safety. This is just to understand like how much we are aware about these things as a new business owner. So you don't have to do that. I mean, it's just, one of the exercises that you're most welcome to do it on your own. Okay. So things to consider before you hire. So there is number 1 foremost thing that's, we want to make sure that we are updating ourselves with the laws, the regulations, because the rules are changing so instantly. Like this one, it talks about the sexual harassments and abusive conduct prevention trainings. So this bill, California Senate Bill 1343. I guess I have to read this thing. I don't want to, I don't. Tim, you want to talk about this thing? Because I know it's talking about like the old rules versus the new ones, right?
Yes, it's getting more into, there's specific training for managers, and then there's another for employees. And the threshold, it's been based on the number of employees you have, but it's been very open. I mean, it's just something you want to make sure that you're addressing and covering with all your new hires. And for managers, it's 2 hours. For employees, it's an hour of training that's involved, and become just an integral part of everything we're doing right now. It says for 50 or more employees, but that's a loose guide. I would say, you really want to take a look at this and make sure that it is a part of your training for all of your employees when you're coming through, how to treat with vendors, with clients, with everyone involved in your business. So just a very important piece to be aware of and to cover.
Thank you, Tim. That was so helpful. Thank you. I did not want to read the whole thing, but thank you so much for summarizing. Yeah. It's just like we have to know, what's changing. So we get, we don't get into trouble as a business owner. So thank you again. So now let's talk about time and pay, minimum wages. So this is, that I believe that's the law, the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, which regulates minimum wage, overtime, record keeping, and employing minors. So it sets federal minimum wage at $7.25 per hour. And the state and cities, counties, they can also have their own minimum wages. So you want to check out, make sure that you have the right, correct wage amount, with by your state, by your, as a federal government. So you can go to this website, and you must pay the higher amount and display both state and federal minimum wage postings. Okay, so those are some things that we need to we need to take care. So time and pay, overtime pay, we are talking about under FLSA. So knowing, the employee that you're going to be hiring, what category that employee is going to be. Is it going to be in exempt or non-exempt? So non-exempt are hourly employees who work more than 40 hours in a work week, must receive overtime pay. Their pay, overtime pay must be at least 1.5 times regular pay for the additional hours. So that's why we need to understand, what is exempt mean, what is non-exempt mean. So we don't put our employee in the wrong category, and later on they come back, after us. So because you guys know that in USA, it's, people are looking to sue, especially the business owners. Okay. So some record keeping rules, those are also necessary as, we are taking care of employees, hiring employees. Employee time hourly must be accurately tracked, and pay records must be maintained. So options include paper timesheets, software, or web-based solutions. Whatever strategy that you're using to track your employee, make sure you're not just you're tracking everything about your employees, but their payroll stuff related. Okay. And child labor rules. Labor rules, I believe in California is 18 or under the age, but everything every state has their different child labor laws. So this is, the FLS also has lots of information on employing minors, at your business. So from here, from this, from this slide, I would ask Tim Conboy to take care of the next slides, as he's more expert and he's gonna, giving us more training on the other necessary things that we need to take care. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Jaspreet. And I'll jump in here on the discrimination regulations and such. Jaspreet's very generous in classifying me as an expert, but we'll get into this. And I've got about 30 slides to go through in about half an hour. So we're going to move quick on a lot of this. And please take your notes and chats and questions. We're going to have try to have a good Q&A session here at the end. So with discrimination laws, it's basically, you got Title VII, which Civil Rights Act and Civil Rights Act of 1964 for 15 plus employees, this grows every year, but legislation that comes down prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, gender, or national origin, and age discrimination, of course, 20 plus employees. So not really applying to most of us here as we're getting started with the hiring process, but again, prohibits discrimination against people age 40 or older. So we don't want to challenge that, and make sure that we're keeping that open to all applicants that are coming in for your positions as you're growing here. We'll move on with that. And some of the discrimination laws that are being addressed right now are Pregnancy Discrimination Act, and based on pregnancy, childbirth, or related conditions, Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, 15 plus prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities, and that expands every year. Equal Pay Act, all employees regardless of size, prohibits discrimination based on gender. So keep that in mind. and employer obligations, OSHA, safety regulations. This again expands, but you want to make sure that you're addressing everything on a safety basis when you're looking at this. Depending on the type of business that you're involved with, it could be quite expansive. But maintain safe working surfaces, having plans for fire prevention, other emergencies, including exit routes. Don't have exit doors locked during the day. I mean, you have to have open access to all exits, medical first aid supplies on hand. This is an interesting one. The medical first aid regulations for OSHA is changing this coming year. Make sure that you don't just have a simple, box of Band-Aids and think that that's your first aid supplies are sufficient. You gotta have make sure you have medical first aid supplies that are OSHA approved, and make sure that's provided on the work site. Alert employees of hazardous chemicals in the workplace. Depending on like I say, depending on the type of business that you're in, and record work-related accidents and illnesses. They want to make sure that you've got that in place. IPPI regulations and everything else are covered, and sufficient training and safety equipment, et cetera. So don't take that lightly. Make sure that you have everything in place, and you want to avoid having those costly OSHA penalties should they be visiting your place of work. One thing to let you know is OSHA just hired on an additional 60 work site regulators that are becoming through and just in the Central Valley. So there's this a definite focus on that. So we'll keep going. And state employment laws, you've got your different ones, but we'll be looking into each one of these in more detail with discrimination laws on employment, taxes, workers' comp insurance, disability, and local regulations. And looking first at defining the role and pay range, looking into that more. Job descriptions, very critical to your success, and want to make sure that we're dedicating enough time to this piece. You want to make sure that just not a quick fix. Need a receptionist. Apply today. You need to be more into the details of specific responsibilities, day-to-day tasks, any required skills or work experience, desirable traits, work hours, and part-time, full-time. Don't skimp on any of these. Make sure that you're taking the time to look at exactly what's going to be required of the position, whether it's going to be a payroll person, a receptionist, sales person, what the responsibilities are going to be there. The more details that you can get into that, the less headaches you'll have down the road, and you'll be able to identify the right person for that job. So very critical that you have a very detailed, thorough job description as you're going forward. And establishing that pay range. As we all know, there's some legislation that's going into effect this coming year, where any ads or anything postings for positions, open positions that you're going to be looking to hire for, you're going to have to be stating what that salary range will be. And so make sure you do the homework on this, and make sure that you have solid competitive pay ranges for the positions that you're going to be looking to hire for. So, there's different areas. You can go to salary.com, indeed.com. You can gather a lot of input on what's being offered out there in the market right now. So consult with other business owners, check with industry trade associations, and then review cost of living in your area. You want to be fair and make sure that you're offering a competitive salary. So important to have consistent salary ranges on that as you're growing. You're going to be making sure that you're competitive and having good, solid, established salary ranges for the positions that you're going to be hiring for. And then the big question is hourly or salary, and this comes into so much. Most exempt, the exempt employees that you're looking at are going to be people that are, and this is for FLSA guidelines. Most exempt are going to be executives, administrative, upper administrative type of people, professional, outside, outside commission salespeople. That's always a big question. I've had employers approach me recently where they're still trying to hire just straight commissioned salespeople, and you want to make sure that you're following some strict guidelines on that. Whether it's going to be against a draw on the commission sales. How does that look? What are you being competitive? Are you going to have a lot of turnover? Make sure that you're being consistent on that. For exempt people, you got to be offering them at least $684 a week now. Per week, and then that's $35,568 annually, so a little bit over $17 an hour. But make sure that you're looking at the job descriptions and what those positions are looking at. Misclassifying workers is common, and when in doubt, can't stress that enough. When in doubt, go hourly. If you think an employee is misclassified as salaried, work with your attorney. Be on the safe side. Alter the responsibilities to make the classification accurate. Make sure, again, going back to that job description, but exempt, you're better off going hourly. Like we said earlier, anything. It really comes down to if they're going to be working overtime. If they're salaried, you're paying them that consistently, and it's just assumed that they're working 40 hours a week. And be careful when you're considering this path. So I would suggest, at the outset, we're going to be going hourly for the most part, so much safer. And then things to consider before you hire: benefits help attract and retain employees. That's possible at this point, to make sure that you're looking at these different things. So benefits, paid time off, flexible hours or ability to work from home, life insurance, that flexibility, that flex schedule, working from home, remote is such a big thing through COVID. And as we're coming out of that, there's still a big trend towards remote or hybrid, at least. So take a look at that if that's a possibility. Make sure like I say, going back to that job description, you're going to have, everything spelled out, what the expectations of the job are going to be. But these are some things that you can be offering to for retention and making your job more attractive to those candidates as they're coming through. Weigh the cost of offering benefits and make sure they comply with federal regulations. So we're looking at all of that. So make sure you have everything tied in. Okay. And as we get looking at that section, then things to consider, we're going to move on, and please make sure you're putting notes together and get those chats into the box, but make sure you're ready. And the hiring process, jumping into that piece of it, we're recruiting candidates, screening candidates, and then making that job offer. So hopefully I can offer some insight on this. I've got 42 years in the recruiting side, and starting off, we've got, post that ad on job search websites. You've got Monster, Indeed, Career. I mean, that's just scratching the surface. There's so many resources out there as far as posting and making sure the ad, you're getting visibility on that. LinkedIn has been a big tool recently as far as getting the word out there on different opportunities you might have. And there's a slew of resources, but be aggressive about that. Get the word out. Post the ad. Get that moving on social media. Tell your friends and family about the ad, but resist the temptation to hire unqualified family or friends. That speaks for itself, I think. And post on social media, like I said. Facebook and LinkedIn are, again, great resources. So what you want to do is, you're not going to settle for mediocre candidates. You want to be hiring right the first time, and bring in people that are going to help you build your business. So that's critical. You guys have put your heart and soul into this. You're entrepreneurs. You're working 7 days a week on your business plan and have your heart and soul into this. So don't settle for just somebody that can fill that seat. You know, you want to make sure that you're getting the right person that's going to have that passion for your business as much as you do. Well, as close to as much as you do, and help you build your business. Okay, and screening candidates, you know, very critical. Review resumes and cover letters against your job description. I think the biggest cover letters are kind of scarce these days. I mean, you got resumes that you're going to be looking at, but you know, you're going to get the quick picture of what that person's going to be able to bring to the table right off of that resume. You know, you want to look at people that aren't just doing cookie cutter type resumes. You know, you want somebody that's going to be putting their heart and soul into that, and try to get a feeling for what their qualifications are, and then have qualified candidates complete a job application. You know, again, be careful. You know, we're here in California, so there's certain things you don't want to be asking about. There's certain things that you know, California bans, you know, you don't want to be talking about their criminal history or salary history in an application. It's more getting a feeling for more details about their experience and what they bring to the job. So and you know, just kicking things off when you're first starting the screening process, I would suggest, you know, before you bring them in for an actual face-to-face interview, that you're doing maybe a phone screen, getting a little bit more detail about who they are, what they bring, what kind of opportunity they're looking for, and make sure that they're aware, you know, you're a startup. I mean, you're you know, a small company. Make sure that they're comfortable with that. You know, are they comfortable working for a 3-person office or a 5-person office, or are they looking for that big corporate entity where, you know, they're one in 1,000? So get that feeling for them and make sure how comfortable they are about coming into your work environment, and then discussing further in a personal interview. So we'll move on. And conducting that interview, you know, reviewing resumes and plan questions in advance. Make sure that you're ready. You know what your focus is going to be. Ask all candidates the same general questions for consistency, and make sure that you're asking open-ended instead of yes or no questions. You want to get more into that behavioral type interview. You know, what was your experience with this? You know, get them talking. Make sure that they're giving you the feedback you need to make sure that the right candidates. So open-ended questions, and then listen. That the candidate should do most of the talking. That's critical, of course. You know, I think in that initial screening, you're going to be talking more about your opportunity and what you want. But when they come in for that face-to-face interview and meeting with you, you want to be doing most of the listening and have them telling you about why they feel they're the best candidate for the job. And then know what questions are illegal for you to ask. And that's huge. And again, we touched on that earlier as far as discriminatory practices. So they want to make sure that your questions are related to the job and not to their personal history or personal life. You know, stay away from that. So next. And off-limit questions, it gives you a quick idea. You know, what year you were born? Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you married? Do you have children? Stay away from anything like that. Personal questions regarding, you know, disabilities or what's your health like? You know, that's ethnicity and what country are you from? Anything like that. You know, getting into personal details. Nothing related to the job here. So stay away from questions that can get you into that hot water. Next, and we'll skip this one. This is something where, you know, for an in-person live session that we might be doing, but for time constraints here, we're going to jump right into employment testing and assess candidates objectively based on skills and aptitudes. You want to make sure, you know, you're hiring for the right employee for your business. There's a slew of different tools to use as far as looking at, you know, skills and aptitudes. You know, you can do there's you know, profile testing. There's There's skills, abilities, type testing. You know, if you're looking for somebody in an accounting role, you know, there's specific software that you're looking to assess. And I think the biggest piece on this when you're assessing people and doing some employment testing is that you're consistent with the testing, that you're doing the same testing for all candidates for the same position. And you want to avoid any kind of discrimination type claims. So all employees are tested on the same type evaluations, and you're looking at those results objectively. So make sure that you're consistent with that. And then references. You want to make sure, you know, 3 references are pretty consistent, you know, from former employers. You know, friends and family don't really give you a clear picture of what that person's bringing to the table. And it really depends on what level of experience that you're looking at. You know, if you're looking at an entry-level receptionist to assist you with some administrative duties, you know, they're not going to have a wealth of experience out there in the job market at this point, but, you know, you're going to want some type of references, and it could be even for volunteer type work. You know, you can, you know, use those and try and get some feedback on what their capabilities might be, but request permission to contact those references on your job application. You want to make sure that that's built into it. And then of course, you know, call each reference to confirm application resume details. If they'll give you any other information and feedback, it's rare today. Most of them will just, like it says here, confirm some resume details, but and about as far as it'll go. They may, you know, one question that's always a yes or no is would you rehire them? But something that you can ask. And then about job duties, history, and performance. You know, you can ask about that. Most references are very careful to give you any kind of details going forward. But you know, you can of course ask. All right. And background checks, you bet. You know, depending on the level and type of position that you want to make, that you're hiring the individual for, you want to make sure, you know, it's pertinent to the job that you're hiring for. But background checks can definitely be conducted. Once you've made the offer of employment, then you can go forward with the background check. So not until, you know, you just can't run random background checks for the sake of running them. You have to make sure, you know, you've gone through the recruiting process, the interview process, you've actually made an offer of employment. And at that point, then you can run a background check. And the offer of employment should state that, you know, the offer is based on completion of the background check. You know, that those results, of course, will solidify whether that you're going to be moving forward with that hiring process. But be careful with that. You want to make sure that you've made that offer, and then you can run that background check. Okay, making the offer again, listing salary, hourly wage, whatever that's going to be, start date, benefits that are going to be offered. And then in the offer letter, you want to make sure that you're again stating what the job description, what the duties will be, required hours, starting date, all that information. You want to have again confirming the salary, wages, additional requirements if needed. You know, like we said, drug, alcohol test is going to be required, a background checks is going to be required, and then next steps for accepting the job offer. So it's going to be based on the results of any other additional requirements. So make sure that that's included. And wrapping up here on that section. So we had the recruiting of candidates, screening candidates, and making that job offer. So getting through that process, making it painless and effective. And then HR responsibilities. Oh my gosh, here we go. So there's always additional HR responsibilities that we're going to be looking at, and completing required paperwork, setting up payroll reporting, registering your employee, and then ongoing HR responsibilities. So we're going to cover all this in about under 10 minutes. So here we go. So onboarding process, start off right. Okay. And the first piece always when you're bringing that employee on board and getting through some of the compliance issues is the I-9 form, and it has to be done within 3 days of hiring. So if you bring somebody in on Monday, it has to be completed by Wednesday at the latest. And the form is going to ask you to examine employees' documents to confirm eligibility to work in the United States. There's 3 columns. There's 1 column that only requires 1 piece of documentation. There's 2 columns that must have 1 piece each. And looking at that, it's Homeland Security, their requirements you're looking at with the I-9 form, getting through that and making sure it's accurate. The Homeland Security does not require you to be a document expert, but they do require you to give a good faith review of those documents, make sure that they're accurate, that they're not blatant forgeries. I mean, you want to make sure that you're giving it your best review and make sure that they're accurate. If you're missing any of these documents when it comes down to it, if you're ever audited on that, you can be fined for omissions or incorrect information. And a completion template can help. And those there's a lot of information. I think the IRS, the INS just went through another review and updated the I-9 form. So make sure that you have a current form that you're using. And one tool that I've used in the past for multiple hires is the E-Verify system, which taps you right into Homeland Security, can give you instant, pretty much, it's amazing. They give you instant feedback on verification of the document information, and amazing what information they have. So that's a tool I've used in the past, is E-Verify to confirm the I-9 documentation as we complete it. Okay, and then IRS Form W-4, of course, all employees must complete IRS Form W-4 and withholding allowance certificate, and defines number of allowances, and which affects how much you will withhold from from their paychecks. So make sure you have that documentation completed and signed. Okay. Payroll and tax withholdings, you must withhold part of each employee's wages for taxes and pay the taxes to the appropriate authority. So very big piece of being an employer. And federal income tax, you got Social Security and Medicare tax. And so make sure that those are being met. And of course, as it states here, payroll service can help, but taking that on, there's certain, of course, documentation that needs to be, and reporting documentation that needs to be completed. And then state obligations, you got to report new hires to the state within 20 days, and child support enforcement. You've got to, there's a number of reporting, state and federal that we need to make sure that we're covering on this, and then register your business to pay reemployment taxes, unemployment taxes. So these all need to be completed. We've had a very good session with EDD in the past that covers a lot of this information, and it's just ongoing. So make sure that you've got the right, meeting the right obligations on that, of course. And then here's some of the files required for the IRS forms, 941, 940, W-2. So quarterly on the 941, annually 940, and then annually on the W-2. And then labor law posting regulations. Don't take this lightly. You want to make sure that you have the federal postings for all U.S. employers, and got to make sure that you have these documents, federal and we'll go through it real quick, but federal and state. So you make sure that you have these posted, and make sure they're posted where everybody in your company can have access to them. Make sure that they're in a very visible location, not on the back side of the supply closet door. You want to make sure that they're posted somewhere where everybody can review and be aware of what their rights are. Okay, we got federal next. And then we've got state. So make sure you have both covered, and these change regularly. Once you have the major posters up, you will receive updates on them, and you can update these postings on a regular basis, but make sure that you're, getting that covered and make sure you have those available. Okay, and as I mentioned, display mandatory labor law postings where employees can easily view them. Postings, they change frequently, and consider a reputable postal service to keep you in full compliance. So make sure you're getting current, updated information on those postings. Okay. And maintaining the employee records. You want to have 3 different files. This is very important. You have the personnel file, you have the payroll file, and then you have a medical file. So you want to keep these separately. So appropriate information is shared when required. So you want to break it down, as far as that personnel file and a payroll and a medical file. So just for proprietary reasons, make sure that that's kept separate. So don't include them all in one file. Employees can have access to their personnel file at any time, and you got to make them, make that available to them. You don't want to have other information. If they want a medical, want to see their medical records, then that's separate. I mean, just keep these for your own documentation. Make sure that these are kept separately. And as we move into this, we're going to be, again, completing that required paperwork, setting up payroll, reporting and registering your employee, and then ongoing HR responsibilities. Okay. And then, final overview, we're going to get into some of these things, but things to consider again before you hire. Know when it is the right time to hire. Understand employment law, time, pay, discrimination, OSHA. You don't have enough on your plate. You got to make sure that you're have an understanding, and if you have any questions, make sure that you're getting those answered before you're jumping into this hiring process. And then define the role and pay range. We talked about that. So the importance of that, and it becomes even more now with total salary pay range postings on all your job postings. So make sure you have that covered. And then the hiring process, recruiting, screening, making that job offer. How do you make sure you have everything covered in that process? And ongoing HR responsibilities, initial paperwork, payroll setup, maintain that compliance. Huge. Compliance is just ongoing, and you want to keep updated on everything that's required there. And then right down to maintaining employee records. So, where do you keep that W-4 form? Where do you keep that I-9 form? Making sure everything's recorded and maintained should you ever be audited or ask for those records. Okay. And then with that, Bob, I'm going to let you kind of wrap things up here as we go through this, but I hope we gave everybody enough time here for some questions. So please.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. Excellent information with all the recording requirements and record keeping requirements. It makes a person wonder when you actually have time to sell something. This is a SCORE sponsored webinar, and SCORE offers a lot of resources, make them available to not only startup businesses, but existing businesses. And we would encourage you to go to our website, www.score.org, to get copies of webinars and then guides for hiring your first employee, and a bunch of HR tools and tips that are available at our website. And we would encourage you to visit the website. It's a plethora of information on so many different subjects. Next slide, please. And the resources continue. And you will get this when we mail out the copy of the webinar, the employment determination guide. As you can see, we've given you links to different websites, Paychex, ADP, Deluxe, and what have you. And you'll be able to click on these and go right to these sites and get the information that you need. Next slide. And we're going to have a closing poll. If you'll just take a minute to answer a few questions, it will help us in our future webinars. Did you find today's information what you expected? Did you find the facilitators knowledgeable about the subject? Would you attend a small business roundtable on this subject? And lastly, I thought we had a number 4. There it is. Would you recommend SCORE to a friend? Please take a moment to answer these questions for us. We would greatly appreciate it. And Christina, do we have any totals yet?
Yes, Bob, I'll go ahead and share the results now.
We have
Okay.
question number 5 also.
Number 5, did I miss one? Oh, I'm sorry. You have questions that were not addressed. Okay. And so starting at the top, yes, you found today's webinar mostly what you expected. And of course, we had a knowledgeable facilitator. We would encourage you to attend our small business roundtable, which information we will provide you. Hopefully you would recommend us to a friend. And then if you had some questions that were not addressed today, hopefully you put them in the chat and we can get to them. Okay, we're at question and answer period now. Christina, do we have any?
Yes, Bob. So, let's see. Somebody says they want to know the right way to hire a remote independent sales agent based on commission pay percentage.
Yeah, Christine, I'll tackle that one. I think, you know, we talked about it a little bit when we were talking about salaries and pay ranges. And I think the biggest thing is making sure that you're in compliance with the FLSA, you know, whether it's exempt or salaried. And again, you know, for exempt employees, you know, they're stating that, you know, you have to be paying at least a minimum of $684 a week, you know, $35,000 annually. I think you know, like I mentioned, I've had other companies ask me about this, you know, with commission only salespeople, and they're having such trouble with retention. And this is one of the biggest areas. You know, I think there's different ways to set it up with a commission plan, but you know, you have to have some kind of a salary base to retain and make sure that you're paying people accurately. And some of them will talk about the commission base on a you know, the pay on a draw basis against commissions. And there's different ways to structure that commission base, but you know, you still have to be paying individuals some kind of a base. It's very hard to have straight commissioned only individuals, and you know, you're not going to have that buy-in. It's going to be very hard. So most of them are coming up with creative commission type plans to support that sales base.
Okay, and someone's asking, how can I call to have constant support in this area?
I'll let Bob and Jaspreet address that one.
I'm not sure what they're getting at. Support in what area? I mean,
Can I recommend
Sure.
for anyone out there in business today? Let me see if I can get my camera on. It won't let me turn it on.
I thought we were going to talk about the mentor program.
So every person that owns a business should have 4 to 5 elements in their business. One is a banker, an accountant, attorney, HR, and a SCORE mentor. A SCORE mentor can help you take you through the different nuances in your business. And one of the questions is, I see there was quite a few that are getting ready to hire somebody. And how do you evaluate, how do I hire somebody? And we're going to go into more details on our next, we'll be going to a roundtable to answer some of these questions specifically. And that is coming up soon, right, Christina?
Yes, it's actually coming up on December 14th at 11 a.m. I'll be sure to send everybody the link to register for that
Many
roundtable.
of you are going to have questions after today's webinar. Darn, I should have asked that question or this question. Please address those, and if we didn't answer them today, we will. But that's actually a very good question. from the last question. Thank you.
Okay, and question regarding a poster. So what are the new options for mandatory postings and for remote employees?
Well, I know, talking regards to the posters, when I was in business, I relied on the California State Chamber of Commerce to keep me updated on that. They will supply the posters for you in the beginning and then keep you updated annually. That's the resource I used.
Yeah, but Sandra, that's a great question though, for remote employees that are working from home. You know, how do you make that information available to them? And I think that would be something that would be probably on a, you know, web-based PDF type format where you have that information available to your employees, you know, where they can go and look at that information through your website, whatever it might be.
Okay, and do you have information regarding 1099 independent contractors?
Yeah, great question. And something that's very abused out there. You want to make sure that you're following the federal guidelines when it comes to this question. And California is one of the more stringent ones about this because, software developers and what have you. But classifying people as 1099 employees is you want to be very, very cautious. There's certain guidelines. One of them is that your 1099 consultant that you're qualifying as a 1099 person is someone who's working outside of the realm of what your business is. They usually someone that you're bringing in for different expertise that is coming in to give you guidance on whether it be an accounting system or facility design or it's outside of the realm of what your normal business is. So you want to be very careful. And there's certain guidelines. They've just revised the questions regarding 1099 use, and you can find that online. It's pretty relevant, but be careful when you're looking at 1099 classifications.
Tim, you're making a very good point there. You can go to edd.ca.gov, and there's actually a questionnaire about independent contractors.
Yeah.
And there's the questionnaire. If you answer yes on any of those, they're an employee. So, so if you're in business, when in doubt, go to the California website, edd.ca.gov.
And when hiring care staff for senior care facilities, would it be best to hire an outside HR source because of the longer hours but less days worked? Tim, you want to touch on that?
Care staff and medical facilities have a whole different base of rules, and I wouldn't want to say I'm an expert on that. They have different regulations on that, and like they say for extended care. I couldn't give you the right answer on that one. I'm sorry.
If you would go to deluxe.com, these are the people that formerly made checks for your banks, but they have gone into HR on employee handbooks, and they do address that specifically. And you can go into different categories, and that's deluxe.com.
I put that link in the chat there for everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, let me go into the chat here. Question, someone wants to know if they can get the recording. Yes, this recording and the PowerPoint presentation will be emailed to everyone today. And it looks like those are all the questions here.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Tim said is about the employee records. And Tim, you can cover that again, but I think that is so critical. if anyone has ever gone to an EDD claim and you're the employer sitting on the other side, and if you don't have those, it's going to be very uncomfortable for you. Wouldn't you say, Tim?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's critical. You want to make sure everything's documented. You know, that HR function is really, documentation. If you don't document it, it didn't happen. So, that's just so important.
And I see many people are going to hire their first employee and do their own payroll. Any recommendations, Tim, you or Jessica can
Oh my gosh.
comment on that?
We're fortunate to have Jessica with us this morning. I think she would give us fantastic input on payroll.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
What I would recommend, especially if you have no background in payroll, believe it or not, ADP offers a lot of assistance and can actually set you up. So, sometimes when you go through ADP or a company like Deluxe, ADP, I think checks, it can be a little pricey. So the best thing to do is find someone local who can help you out with the payroll. But I do recommend, I've been in payroll for over, I think, almost 10 years. Even as a payroll administrator, we actually look to ADP for any new regulations, especially in California, that they are the largest, they are a global payroll company. So they're not just throughout the nation, they are global. And they are more than willing to ask and answer any questions you do have. And a lot of it, believe it or not, is for free. So if you have any questions regarding payroll or how to start up, they can actually walk you through it with no charge unless you're willing to go through them. So yeah, as a payroll administrator, when we are hit with something, we tend to usually reach out to ADP, and they actually are, and they are fast, and because they are a nationwide payroll company. So I don't know if this is specific to California, but I have done payroll in other states and in the Midwest as well. And ADP is always, they are more than willing to answer any questions you have.
That's great advice. Tim, we have a lot of people leaving employment today. How important is it to have an exit survey?
Well, to build on that, you do want to have some sort of a exit, so you can find out what are the underlying issues for people leaving. So of course you want to be building on that, for your own peace of mind and make sure that you're totally aware of what's happening in your workplace. I mean, it might be something that there's smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And so you want to make sure that you're covering those bases, and don't be afraid of asking those tough questions when somebody's exiting. Don't just blame them, find out more about what the source is, and make sure there isn't a reoccurring issue that's coming up if people are leaving. I've seen issues where I've seen employers that are going into their, every 6 months, they're looking for a specific type of an individual, and what's the underlying problem there? What's causing that position to be open every 6 months? So for your own growth and peace of mind, you want to be asking those tough questions. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for lending your expertise. We probably didn't answer all the questions in the room here, but we will do a follow-up, and we're gonna have more HR people and legal issues coming up on the next one for the HR roundtable. And I'm sure many of you will have more questions as you go through the nuances of hiring a new employee and that sort of thing. It's a moving target, right, Tim? I mean, you got to be on top of this thing and
Yes.
really pay attention to your employees and
Yeah.
what's happening in the workplace.
There's a lot on the legislative front here for January.
Yeah,
One of them is in the retail sector. There's some legislation that's on the desk right now where it would be mandatory to pay anyone in the fast food industry, $22 an hour. So we've got different things we're keeping our eye on. And yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, there's always things that are changing, like I say.
Yeah, and that's why these lobbyists get paid big money. So anyway, thank you, everybody, for attending today, and you have a great week. And again, we are here to help you, so don't hesitate to reach out to SCORE for any assistance. And we will see you at the next webinar, and everybody will receive a recording today. You might want to go back and listen to that and information. And of course, our contact information will be in there should you have any questions. So thank you, everybody. And if our presenters could stay around, we will do a post